Welcome back, everyone. Today we have a red Zoro Rush deck profile for you. This is a very solid tier 2 deck right now. In set 2, this will become the best deck of that format just because we will have new searchers, new cards that do stuff to lower play cost to make them more powerful, which means you can spam the board really quickly and then have Zoro power him up even more and start swinging very early game to make it one of the fastest decks in existence right now. All right, so this deck is very simple to play. It is a very vanilla playstyle. You essentially just grab cards, throw them down, and then just start attacking, right? A lot of the effects are very short, just like this. Dawn ×1, your turn, all your characters gain 1,000 power. Very simple. I would recommend this deck for beginners if it wasn't for the fact that all these cards are super expensive right now. So the red starter decks that you need are pushing about 40 bucks right now. The reprint, I believe, is in February or March. And then there is also the red Rush Zoro, which are pushing about 25. And we have Romance Dawn getting their second wave at the end of January. So let's see where those prices go with those coming out. All right, so first we are starting off with the Secret Shanks. So 2 Shanks, these will become Whitebeards when set 2 comes out. Right now, you need that rush, and if your opponent plays a bunch of blockers, this thing just ignores the tiny blockers, right? So later games, late in the game, your opponent won't be playing, big blockers. They won't be playing like Queen or anything. They'll be playing like their Kaidos, their bigger stuff to essentially try to finish the game. And then they spend their extra little bits of Dawn with by playing the smaller blockers, and then this would just bypass all of it. All right, so you do play 2 of those. Like I said, you do replace them with Whitebeard later. Whitebeard gives one of your leaders plus 2,000 power, so making your leader a 7, which makes it harder to hit, which will be a very good defense to buy you another turn so you can just rush your opponent with a bunch of attacks again. All right, so this is one of the cards that is the reason that the starter decks is pushing $40 because these are $10 a piece. Essentially rush and then Dawn ×2 when attacking your opponent cannot activate blocker during this battle, right? So you put 2 Dawns underneath, it's an AK, your opponent can't block. You don't always have to do that, but when you do play it, it does have rush. So if they don't have the blocker, you don't have to put the 2 Dawns underneath. It is 6. You might want to put 1 just so your opponent's leader would attack your opponent's leader with 7, which would force them to throw a 2 and a 1, which usually in my experience, they don't like to throw multiple cards away, especially early game, right? So this is actually super strong. And then later in the game, if your opponent doesn't take this out, that's when you start using the Dawn ×2, where then they can't activate the blocker. Devastating. All right, 2 Utas. So Uta goes, add 1 red character other than Uta with a cost of 3 or less. Most of your deck is 3 or less. The cards I've shown you so far are the only ones that are more than 3, right? We're going down in size. So she is really good for late game, or if you don't see as many of your Zoros and you really will have to recycle some of them. So you do see, you play her and then you recycle your Zoro or whatever else you need. And then because she's also a 4K, your Zoro leader will give her the plus 1,000 to make it 5 to make sure it hits. All right, here's probably your most expensive card of this deck. It's your Rush Zoro. It's 3 cost, rush, it can hit, right? 5,000. And then pump 1, 6, making it, your opponent will actually have to throw away like 2K to guard this. Or if you want to throw in extra Dawn to make it, it's just devastating to see this drop down on the field. One of my favorite cards is this Robin. You can play her early because she is only a 3 cost, and then, she will be a 5 with the Zoro, and then 6 if you use her Dawn. Her effect is just really good. Your opponent early in the game will be setting up like their small stuff, like their Bonnies, their blockers, other searchers, etc. You throw out a Nico Robin, it really makes them question what they want to throw out because they know it's going to die, right? As soon as you throw out your Nico Robin, they're like, oh, well, I shouldn't play this card because I do actually want it out on the field for a little while. So they might not play their little blockers. So they'll, use their early turns to attach all the Dawns underneath their leaders and then just swing at you, right? While you start building your board. She's incredibly good. 2 of this Luffy. If I like this Luffy just because it is free to give himself up to 5k. You use 2 of your Arrestodons, and then he can't be taken out by strike characters. Now, that part isn't as important right now, but I do like that he can make himself a 5, and he's only a 2 cost, so that is really cheap. So you can throw him out, like, if you go second, and on the very next turn, you can already swing with a 5 cost. Problem is that he's a 3 cost on your opponent's turn, because you know the power he's getting to get up to 5 is from the Dawn, so he is easily taken out, which is why I'm not playing more. He's basically there just to fill in the 2-card gap, and I couldn't find any other suitable or more aggressive cards. Sanji is here for the aggression as well. Once per turn, you add a card from your life to your hand. So early game, you can afford it to start grabbing your pieces, to throw out more cards, to, you know, basically rush your opponent down. And then this character gets 2,000 power, then give this character up to 2 of your Arrestodon, right? So you play it early, and then on the very next turn, he becomes a 7, right? That's really big, especially for a 2-cost card. 4 VVs, 2 cost, 4k. Zoro makes a 5 just to swing. It's really good. You can play Psy, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can't search either of them off of the cards that currently exist anyway. So you could play 4 Psys, which is essentially 2 cost, 4k as well. Just personal preference. 4 Sanjis, give it 2 Dons, and this gets rushed, right? So you don't have too many cards in this deck that uses up rested Dons, or at least, you know, attach rested Dons. You do play 2 of the Namis, which we'll get to. So if you do end up using this, you'll probably rest 2 Dons to play the Sanji, and then attach 2 Dons to give Sanji the rush while he's attacking for 6k. You just needed another rush card, so that's why I threw it in here. For this Nami, right? This is your search Nami, like a top 5. Reveal 1 Straw Hat Crew type character. That does matter because you do have a bunch of event cards that are Straw Hats. Now, she is actually the reason why people play the Sunny instead of Karoo in set 2 when Zoro becomes like the best deck, the tier 1 deck, right? Because Sunny is a Straw Hat Crew character, so you can actually grab the Sunny as a 1 cost. You cannot grab Karoo because it is not a Straw Hat. So she is actually the reason why everybody plays that Sunny for the 1 cost 3k, and then, you know, throw it down. Zoro gives it a pump, put a 1 Dawn underneath it. It's a early attacker for essentially 1 cost, right? And because Sunny is searchable by her, that's why it's being played. 2 of the Nami, this is the only card we have that, you know, just naturally moves it to one of your Arrestodon, to your leader, or one of your characters. Usually you don't want to have too many of these on the field in this version of a red deck, just because you want space for your attackers. You really just want 1 on the field, so every turn you just attach the 1 to your leader so that everything gets 1k, which actually is really good. If you just use that free Dawn, attach it, and everything gets 1,000, super strong, right? But she's not absolutely necessary to win the game. You could just attach 1 Dawn, and 1 Dawn is not that much. 4 Otamas, right? On play, give one of your opponents minus 2,000 power. 2,000 power is actually very big in this game. She is so useful. She's come in to play so many times. For example, you can use her for a 1 cost, throw it down, take out like the 8 cost kid, which is at 8,000 down to 6,000, which makes it within range for Gum Gum Jet Pistol, right? So for a 5 cost, you could take out something that they were essentially using to stall for time. So she is so helpful, making even big units within reach of the tiny cards. So for example, like, you know, if your opponent has kings out, right, those are very big, 7k, making them within 5k, that's attacking range for a lot of those cards without even having to use up any extra Dons. 4 choppers, just blocker, 1 cost blocker, really good. 4 Gum Gum Jet Pistol, you really do need this card to take out the annoying cards that you can't touch early. For example, if your opponent starts setting up like Sentomaru and their Pacifista, and you can't really touch it because they're not going to rest their Sentomaru or attack with their Sentomaru, and you have no other way to touch those cards, you just take it out with a Gum Gum Jet Pistol, right? Anything that, I mean, that's just an example. There are plenty of cards with 6,000 power or less. And even if they don't have 6,000, like I said, take it down a notch with Otama, and then this can essentially hit basically everything except, like, with the exception of Kaido's, right? Kaido's just too big. You would have to, like, play multiple Otamas to get the Kaido down, and I mean, it could be worth it, but it's just too much. But with one Otama and a Gum Gum Jet Pistol, you can basically take out all the cards that currently exist. And then 2 Diable Jambe. Late in the game, this is your finisher, just because your opponents are going to be running low on cards, and then you see that, you know, they have some blockers. They don't know your attacking order, and then at the end, you just attach a bunch of Dawns to one of your cards and then Diable Jambe, right? Because a lot of the cards in this deck are really cheap cost, right? If the game does drag out, then you have plenty of extra Dawns to attach to characters and then Diable Jambe them for game. All right, that is my deck profile, and thanks for watching. See you guys next time.